Today we have a number of nominees on today's agenda, and I'd like to be able to get through the whole agenda. I know that we have votes this morning, as we just found out, and there'll be 2 more votes this morning. So I'll keep my remarks brief and would ask that members to consider doing so as well so we can get through this agenda. We have several nominees on the agenda for the first time, and the minority has requested that they be held over. So the nominations of Axon, Brown, Farr, and Ray will be held over when we get enough people here to do that. We also have 3 U.S. attorney nominees on today's agenda who will be able to, we should be able to vote on them. Finally, we'll be voting on several nominees, and I'd like to say a few words about one of the nominees on today's agenda in particular. Professor Barrett is nominated to serve 7th Circuit. She's eminently qualified and exceptionally bright nominee who has received praise and support across the legal profession. I was surprised and disheartened by the line of questioning that took place during her hearing. During her hearing, my friends in the minority raised concerns over and asked questions about her personal religious beliefs. Specifically, it was about her Catholic beliefs, and their questions strongly implied that she was too Catholic for their taste, whatever it means to be too Catholic. I mention this because I fear the committee is heading down a dangerous road if we continue to ask nominees questions like this. The Constitution specifically provides that, quote, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office under the United States. It's one of the most important founding principles, and yet I saw members seeking to understand just how Catholic Professor Barrett considered herself, as if this is relevant to assessing her credentials to be on the bench. I don't think an evaluation of how religious a nominee is or isn't should ever be part of our evaluation. I told a reporter in Iowa yesterday on my weekly news conference about, she asked me how my religious beliefs affected my work as a United States Senator. I told her I take an oath to uphold the Constitution, not the Bible, even though I believe the Bible is the Word of God. We received many letters on this topic, including one from Princeton University president, who is a former law clerk to Justice Stevens and a constitutional scholar. He writes that the question posed to Professor Barrett about her faith were, quote, not consistent with the principles set forth in the Constitution's no religious test clause, end of quote, and that the views expressed in her law review article on Catholic judges are, quote, fully consistent with the judge's obligations to uphold the law and the Constitution. Without objection, I'll enter that letter in the record. Professor Barrett has assured the committee that she strongly believes it's inappropriate for a judge to place their religious views before their oath to the Constitution. Instead, the main point of her law review article is that if a judge cannot put aside her personal religious convictions, she should not be involved in a case. I'll make one more related comment. Professor Barrett and a few other nominees have a relationship with and ties to the Alliance Defending Freedom Group, which, as several senators have recently pointed out, has been labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Now the nominees have pointed out that the Law Center designation is highly controversial. I'd say it's completely unfounded. ADF is an advocacy organization that litigates religious liberty cases. They've won 7 cases in front of the Supreme Court in the past 7 years. They're not outside the mainstream. Any difference in viewpoint folks may have with them boil down to policy differences. But dissent and differences of opinion does not equal hate. And it's wrong to compare an organization like ADF to that of the KKK or the Nazi Party, and by extension, imply that the nominees before us sympathize with such actual hate groups.